evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the Finance Committee. It is Wednesday, March 6, 2024. Do I have a motion to open our meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is being video recorded. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, tonight we have one budget hearing. Old Colony is here. We have Sarah Griffith, the Old Colony business manager, and Mr. Aaron Polanski, the superintendent of schools at Old Colony. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. So we've put together a presentation. It mirrors that of what we shared with the selectmen as well. We'll move through it, and if folks have questions, we're more than happy to pause and answer any questions you may have. We cover our mission. That's just traditional for us at the beginning of every slide. We also want to share, because we know this is being televised, that for all members of Acushnet, our community, we have entered the MSBA feasibility study portion of the grant program. And that being said, we wanted to just let everyone know we've hired our OPM, that's PMA consultants, and that the journey can be followed online. So for the purpose of transparency, we want to make sure that people know. If you go to the Old Colony website, there's an MSBA information button. You can click on that and see the most up-to-date information. So as we're moving through that process, we just wanted to make sure that people have access to the most up-to-date information, and we thought we'd use this forum just as an opportunity to share that in case folks in town would like to follow that. We're in the process of designer selection right now, and what that means is we'll look at the, we just did a walkthrough at the facility with potential designers, and the selection process will begin in just a few weeks. Once we select a designer, we'll be up and on our feet and running and have a better idea as to the trajectory of what's going on. Now we get into budget, and obviously we also want to talk about enrollment because dollars follow students. So these are the application trends for the town of Acushnet since 2018. In 2018, we had 51 Acushnet applications. In 19, we had 77. 2020, we had 87. 2021, 86. 2022, we had 90. In 2023, we had 103. And to date, we have 93 applications from the town of Acushnet. And we'll be notifying folks of their acceptances probably either later this week or early next week. So we'll have a better idea.
Are you still taking applications, or is it already?
It's a rolling process.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, we are.
Yeah.
But the first round of admission notification will take place end of this week, early next week.
When's the cutoff?
It rolls all the way into next September.
Oh, so it goes right up to the first day kind of thing?
Yeah, so that if people are interested, they can still apply, but only on a space available basis.
Is there a maximum amount?
In the incoming class, we typically take anywhere between 140 and 150 maximum. That's the maximum number of students that we accept in the freshman class.
Okay, refresh my memory. Do you remember what we were at this time last year? For so far?
103.
No, to date. At that, I'm trying to go
Oh, to date?
to kind of gauge it.
Yeah, do we have a percentage?
I think it was similar. I think it was very similar to where we are now. Yep.
So just a question on your budget, when you're looking at your per student, what does that factor in for enrollment this year compared to what you had for last year? Is it stagnant? Is it
Nope.
growing?
Last year we were plus 18, and believe it or not, we matched that number. It was plus 18 this year as well.
So that's what we're expecting, or is that basically an allotment that you've got and you'll fill from that?
So from 23 to 24, it was a 18 student increase.
Mm-hmm.
From 22 to 23, it was an 18 student increase. So the numbers that guide the FY25 budget are the October 1st numbers of FY23.
Okay, so that's
Does that
already
make sense?
set regardless of
Correct,
what we're going to come in. Thank you.
Yeah. So this shows a second column of total Acushnet students that were accepted. So you can see those trends on the right-hand side. So in 2023, there were 59 students that were accepted from the town of Acushnet. And in 2024, that number is to be determined. Typically what happens around October 1st, when we know what that real number is, I get right on the phone and I call any town administrator where we see a large increase. So I called Jamie probably October 2nd and said, I just need you to know we have a very large number of students, a large increase, because that helps him to plan a little bit more effectively. It should never be a surprise. The fiscal implications for the FY25 budget are that last year was the last year of Freetown attendance, which means the seniors from Freetown, oh, thank you. Helping me with my clock. The seniors from Freetown graduated, but that was a revenue source of $450,000. We no longer have that $450,000 of non-resident tuition. However, what we do have is additional space for our member towns, and on December 5th, 2019, we met with all of our member towns to talk about what that transition would look like, that we'd see the quarterly, over a 4-year period of time, the decrease of revenues, but the increase in seats. When I came in 2016, we had 188 applications. This year, we're at over 330 applications from member towns. So the demand has increased significantly for an Old Colony education. What we're looking at in terms of our budget is approximately a 7% increase for insurance. The inflation associated with contracted services, supply lines, and energy, and a 3% COLA in accordance with the negotiated contract. So the teachers' contract is a 333. This year is the first year of the 3. FY25 is the second. FY26 is the third. We negotiated a 333 with the teachers. There are no additions to the budget. It was a level service budget. The FY25 proposed budget starts with the governor's numbers. We're mindful of the challenges that we're all facing because revenues are down. But our budget increase without insurance is 2.63%. When we add the insurance of 1.04%, we have a total increase of 3.67% in the budget. So I was talking to Doc earlier about the fact that we carry our insurance in our budget, and for the town, you know, when the school system presents their budget, I do not believe that they carry their insurance. So we do have to carry our insurance. We just ask folks to please keep that in mind.
I appreciate you breaking it up between the two so we have an idea.
Well, you know, I didn't do that at the last meeting, and I thought, you know, that's an error on my part because there's a difference. And all we ask for is some level of parity. I'm here to be an advocate for Old Colony. We're also a partner with the Acushnet schools, very much so. We work hand in hand with Acushnet and the town. You know, today when we were sitting in our meeting with our admin team, Bethany Vitello, our vocational coordinator, said, if you want, I can make a list of all the projects we've done for the town of Acushnet over the last 5 years. And I said, we don't have to do that. They know, you know. But we do want you to know that we're partners in this, and we know we're all going through challenging times. We're very well aware of that. We started at 4.8. That was with a 9% guesstimate at what insurance would be, and insurance came in much lower than the 9%, which allowed us to bring it down. Then we chiseled away a little bit more, and we got to 3.67%. Again, 1.04% of that is insurance. The next slide is just an informational piece. We want you to know that our ESSER funds were not used to fund the operational budget, and that's really important. Because had they been, we would have had huge potholes, and we could have found ourselves in trouble. So these ESSER funds were used for one-time expenses. For instance, teacher training for advanced placement through Mass Insight, Achieve 3000, which is a Lexile measurement software that allows us to measure pre, mid, and post ELA and reading comprehension scores. Temporary COVID staffing, which we're no longer utilizing. A COVID trailer rental, which expires at the end of this year. A Teach Effects teacher training for maximization of student voice. Expanded extracurricular programming and after-school acceleration programming related to COVID. Excuse me. And one-time expenses for the expansion of our drama program, which has really taken off. That really is, in essence, an overview of what we've done. Sarah has handed out the assessment information. It gives you a pretty deep look into how Acushnet is impacted by our ask. But if there's any questions, we're more than happy to address questions at this time, and certainly appreciate your consideration.
I do have a couple questions,
Sure.
and it's regarding, so I'm gonna actually use your salary and Sarah's because you guys are here. I'm not like just picking on you guys, but
Yeah,
I'm just,
please.
you're here. So under the 2023 revised budget, it has a salary of 158, 141, and then under 2023 actual expended, 162, 885. So, and then there was 111, 427, then it was 127, 500 expended.
Right.
Can you just shed some light on that?
Yes, we prepare our budget about a year and a half before the fiscal year actually begins. Most of the time, we haven't negotiated our salaries yet. If the teachers haven't negotiated their salaries yet, we may even be waiting on that to find out whether or not we get a COLA. So the funds that you are referring to are in a line called contractual obligations, which is in the 2305 functioning area of that report. So if you move to the 2000 series, it's 2305.
Do you remember what page it's on?
And if you would teach us out.
2305 is on page 2 of 9.
Oh,
At the bottom.
Yep, the top, the last.
So it's called contractual
last block,
obligations.
and then.
okay, I got you.
So if you go
Yep.
over to that fiscal year, you should see an amount in the contractual obligations line.
Mhm.
And that amount is then transferred at the end of the year to satisfy contractual obligations that happen in that year and a half time period between when we are setting our budget and voting and when it actually is taking place. And that is a holding place that we use as a school district if we haven't negotiated contracts yet.
Okay, so that amount is utilized for any discrepancies.
Any contractual obligation district-wide.
Okay, thank you.
Also, when we're negotiating with teachers, it allows it to be somewhat unknown at that point, because we don't know the answers to that, and it can be, there's not a disclosure ahead of time, though we anticipated very accurately a 3 in year 1, which is where we're at now for the teachers, and that's where we ended, is at a 3% in year 1. And just for clarity around my salary, it was a 3% increase, just so folks know. When we go through our negotiations, also, I think, just in the spirit of transparency, I feel good about sharing. We pull comps from everywhere. So we pulled comps for every single roundtable member to see what the ranges were. We also pulled comps from all our municipalities to see what those ranges were. And we tried to stay within the highs and the lows and never be the highest. And obviously, we were not the lowest. But our goal is to make sure that we're never the highest and that we're within the ranges that we see for our sending communities, which we were successful in doing.
How much did you get in ESSER funds? I mean, just curious if you.
I want to say it was a 100 and, do you know the exact number?
153,000.
153,000.
I had a question about the contractual services and technology.
Sure.
51% increase.
Yes.
What's the huge bump there?
So we have a few different things that have happened at Oak Colony, especially since COVID happened, where there are new online platforms and different ways of teaching and learning that the teachers adopted during COVID that they actually still use in the classroom. We also have had huge increases in our contractual obligations that we require for technology. One of the things in that line is a new general ledger accounting software for the district. The one that we are using is 10 years old now. It was procured prior to my arrival at the school district and is no longer being supported by the company that used to own it. It's been bought. So that is one of the things in that line. We have, I'm trying to think of what else was a really big increase. It's just, if you go through the detail of it,
Mhm.
you have a detail sheet a little bit further on in your packet, you can see every vendor and every amount. But we have seen, that was one of the reasons why that's highlighted on our presentation. We have seen large increases in contracted services going forward. Even ones that held steady through COVID have now increased and are telling us going forward, you know, to see a potential 4% increase in our contracted service amount that we pay for now for the school district, and as well as supplies.
Sounds like subscription type services that you guys
Yeah,
offer.
it's district-wide, so student management software, accounting software, enriching students, which is scheduling software for the school district.
Mhm.
Yeah, anything that's used district-wide for technology.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there a guidance counselor for each grade?
No.
That is not how.
We
it
have
was
3
set.
guidance
Three?
counselors,
Okay, so
Yeah.
there's 3 of
2
them.
adjustment counselors, 3 guidance counselors.
That's also in the detail as well, if you go a little further.
And basically what they do is they oversee programs.
Yes.
So vocational, they're assigned by vocational program.
School nurses, I'm assuming you have 2?
One,
Just 1,
We
okay.
had 2 during COVID,
which was ESSER funded.
which was ESSER funded.
Okay.
And actually, our nurse is now, our COVID nurse is now in Acushnet.
Do you guys ever travel, like, out of state for, like, conferences or anything like that?
We do. Oftentimes it's grant funded, so occasionally it will come from the operational budget, but usually it's grant funded, but there is travel out of state.
Okay.
Do we have that incorporated into this budget?
It would be under professional development, the professional development line,
Travel and conferences.
travel and conference.
Professional development.
So page 3.
Oh, I've already gone by that.
Because there's probably not a large increase in it, so it wouldn't,
Yeah, no.
that's level funded. If a teacher submits a purchase order request to register for a conference after they've submitted approval to the superintendent and the principal, it's charged to professional development if the school district registers you, and travel and conferences if you're requesting reimbursement for mileage or a class that you've taken.
So it looks like you have 1 cafeteria employee in your operating budget.
The director of the
The director,
program is in our
okay.
operating budget.
Mhm.
The rest of the staff is funded by the program.
Mhm.
Grant, I should say the grant.
Right.
Yes.
The reimbursements.
The only time the operating budget ever funds anything for the cafeteria is if we've had a loss.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we lose power in Rochester. Sometimes we lose food
Sure.
value. So
Right.
whatever the food value is, we may pay for that.
Mhm.
If there are lost wages because of something related to food, losing food or power outages, if people have had to do overtime, the district will usually consume that so that the grant isn't charged for something that was not beyond its control.
Right, right.
You guys have a school resource officer?
We do.
Yeah.
It's the first year this year.
Okay.
We did not historically, and then decided that it's probably time.
Yeah, we voted that in last year.
That's right, yeah, we
Yeah.
talked about
I was
that.
gonna
Yeah.
say, I believe that the member towns were involved.
Yeah.
About a $70,000 expense in the budget.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's under salary
Ballpark.
security.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that split
Security.
amongst all the member?
It
towns?
is.
It's shared, yeah.
Via assessment.
Sorry, going back to the travel and conferences.
Sure.
I did, so it looks like it averages about 26,000.
Yes.
How many conferences is that? Like, where are they located? I'm wondering, given the times that we're in, if those could be curtailed, or even online, or something like that.
Some of our regularly attended conferences. I mean, I can speak on my behalf. Masbo now is doing a lot online,
Yeah.
doing less in person than they've ever done before. My dues did not change.
Yeah.
I still pay the same amount of money for dues. We pay our dues to MAVA. So
So
some
that's,
teachers,
that's all in that line
yes,
too, okay.
yes.
Oh, your dues are in
Yes,
there.
okay.
Professional development, yes. All of the school district's dues. We're a part of a MAVA cohort, so our
Oh, yeah,
teachers
no,
can
I'm
take
looking at the,
classes.
right above it is
Travel
travel
and
and
conferences.
conferences, yeah.
So that is mileage reimbursement, meal reimbursement, contractual obligations. So in our current teachers' contracts, there is reimbursement for licenses, tuition, and that is all coming from.
That's all in that line
Yes.
item?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes.
so it's not necessarily that.
No.
It's not all
You're-
trips.
It's
Yeah.
not exorbitant,
If
to
I had
to
Yeah.
answer your question. It's pretty well
Yeah.
controlled.
You don't have a couple people going to Cabo to attend a 3-day conference.
No, I mean, obviously, I'm looking at those expenses that,
Yeah, so out-of-state travel now, I'd say if a teacher needs to fly somewhere for out-of-state travel, soup to nuts, we're probably in it for about $2,500. If it's in-state, online, it could be $100.
but that's in their contract that we're supposed to reimburse them for that sort of, or
They have
is
to
it?
have it approved.
I have an approval process.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's vetted
It
by their
has to
supervisor.
be pertinent to what they do.
Yes.
It can't be a weekend adventure.
Do you have many retirements that you're looking at for next year, or, and how, have you factored any of that into the budget?
Yeah, so the plan for the school year, because we had some savings in hiring for FY '24, is to encumber funds for FY '24 out of the contractual obligation line that I just talked about with you all, to cover the severance liability that we have coming up for some pretty big retirements that we have coming. Teachers that have been with the school for 20 to 30 years and have pretty large sick banks. That's the current plan for retirements, is to fund it out of this year's budget, savings and hiring.
What about for replacing those teachers and staff? Do you
Yeah.
usually, I mean, you probably just take a look
Well,
at the position
on the
and
vocational
kind of
side, it's
try
a
We
little
had
bit
to have
more
a
challenging,
conversation,
right?
for sure, in-house
Because
about
if you want to
that.
hire somebody to be an electrical instructor, a starting teacher's salary is typically not going to do it. However, if you want to hire someone to teach history, then there's a much more demand, and they're not leaving a wage of close to $100,000 to come in and teach. So it varies based on position,
Yeah.
and we think about that ahead of time.
Yeah.
So we'll say, if such and such a position is going to become vacant, we need a budget X. However, if an academic position is going to become vacant, those people are typically coming from college, or we might be looking for someone in particular that has a high skill set, and if we know we're looking for a talent of some sort, we might budget a little bit more so that we have more flexibility. There's pros and cons, right? Because if someone's climbing step and COLA, the increases are going to be much more significant. If you replace and level fund an experienced teacher and find an experienced teacher, you don't have to train them, you don't have to pay for their coursework. There's a lot of difference, give and take. So we try to keep that in mind when we're going through the process.
Sure.
We have pretty in-depth conversations around it. We've done pretty well so far, but I will say the vocational spots are very hard to fill.
I'm sure,
Yeah.
I'm sure. I think all spots are hard to fill now.
Right now, yeah, you're right. You're right. But especially the
Especially those.
vocational.
So when we get like a vocational, we use the electrician, the teacher as an example. Are they actually an electrician? Like,
Oh, yeah.
just certified
They have
and
to
all
be a
that?
journeyman.
A journeyman, okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, so it's the whole shooting match. Okay.
Or for instance, we're going to be looking for a nurse, right? They're currently looking for a nurse. We have a retirement coming up. That person has to be a licensed
Certified.
nurse.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
That's why
hard to
Right.
get someone out of clinical to come into teaching.
Mm.
And they'd be
That's why
licensed
we
by
made
DESI
one.
too.
Yeah.
Right,
No,
yes,
I- I
yes,
was-
yes,
I wasn't
yes.
sure.
Not only do they have to come in, but then they have to jump through hoops because they have to take an MTEL.
Yes.
So I met with
Right.
someone recently, sorry, and they said to me, I haven't conjugated verbs in a really long time. And I said, we'll help you through it, I promise. You'll be okay.
Even I had to take the MTEL.
Yeah,
You know.
I
Curriculum
a long
literacy,
time ago,
yeah.
but I took out a book from the New Bedford
Yeah.
Public Library, and my
My
mother was a
son-
7th grade English teacher, so
Yeah.
I had to
It was
refresh my
wild.
skills.
It was wild.
Yeah. My son just went through that. 'Cause
Yeah.
He wants to be a teacher.
Yeah, you come out of finance, you have to go take curriculum and literacy.
Oh, I fail.
My daughter was an English major in college, and I said to her, why don't you teach? You could pick your job right now. She said, you couldn't pay me $1 million to be a teacher. I want to be a copy editor. And I said, well, great, you're on your own, I can't even help you. But, to your point, Kristen, I think the teaching jobs are everywhere right now. I mean, everyone's looking for people, and they're competing for people.
I think it goes to it's a tough field, especially with some of the challenges that they face.
It is. But we've been blessed, we've been very lucky, we have a great crew.
So with your trades positions, do they have a salary scale as well? Is there a salary scale for that?
Yep, there's a
Okay.
salary scale, but what happens is, the columns are shared, but a bachelor's degree for an academic teacher is the same as a high school diploma for a vocational teacher.
Okay.
So it's just a shift, if that makes sense. Because you don't have to have a bachelor's degree, you have to have 5 years' experience though.
Correct.
Are vocational teachers' salaries negotiated separately from academic teachers?
Nope.
The same
It's
salary
all the
scale.
same, it's all the same negotiation. So their negotiation team comes in and it's a combination of vocational and academic teachers.
Same unit.
Same unit, yeah.
And this is, you're in year one right now?
We're in year one right
You're in
now.
year one right now.
Next year will be year 2. It was in 333, no changes to the steps.
Right, no.
So just so people are clear.
Right.
It's a transparent 333. You know, some schools will say, oh, it's a 333, and then you look and step 1 used to be something else, and that's not truly a, you know, we are a 333 through and through.
And I should probably know this, but how often do you shift from step to step? Is
Annually.
it annually? It is, okay. And then eventually you max out, and then it's
Then it's a COLA, just a
Yeah.
COLA, no step.
gotcha.
We have about half of our staff right now at Top Step.
How long does it take to get to top step?
If you start at 1, then it would be, I think it's a 12-step.
12.
Oh,
If you start at
Pretty
1.
So 12
It's fairly
years.
typical.
If you start at 1.
We don't always hire at
Right.
1.
No, of course not.
If you come in with experience, you may be hired, somewhere, but yeah, 12 years.
Coming from the trades myself, I'm just curious, you guys work with the
What trade?
industry?
Already recruiting, I
Cranes
love
and
it.
rigging.
I was gonna recruit you. Short drive. Just saying.
Talk to me
Do
in
you
10
guys
years
work
if
with
you
the
do a
industry,
bookkeeping
work
class
with the
or something
trades
like
as
that.
far as like
I
apprentice
can
accounting?
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh,
we have
yeah.
an advisory committee that meets twice a year too.
Yeah.
Laborers Training Union comes in from Hopkinton and works with for a week with the kids.
Excellent.
Tommy Lemon, you know Tom Lemon?
Who?
Tommy Lemon?
No, like I said,
You're lost.
he's laborers out
When
here.
I'm tired.
He's a laborers in Hopkinton, but he comes up and he does a whole training with the kids.
Yeah, I'm all local. 25,
Yeah.
4, all in Boston, all the stuff in
Sure.
Boston.
I think you should offer a tax class for anyone who wants to do like accounting or bookkeeping.
Accounting.
Sarah had
I'll
one
go
in high
do
school.
that.
I had one in high school.
I did too, so that's why I'm saying.
We were just talking about this yesterday. My accounting teacher was a hockey coach and his son played in the NHL.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
I took many accounting classes at New Bedford High.
So did I.
I wouldn't have chose my career if I hadn't taken those classes.
Who did you have?
Miss Caton.
Oh. I'm much younger. I was not my accounting teacher in New Bedford High.
Miss Caton.
We're much older. You
Huh?
never know. We're much older. It could have been the other way.
Easy.
Are you listening to this? That one? I'm not feeling loved today in
I'm
this.
just
On this
pointing out
table.
the fact you were considered her old.
No, I'm much older. Like,
If you wanted to hit him with the backhand, I'm paying attention.
Cameras
the
are on.
cameras
Cameras are on,
off.
careful.
You'd have to turn the cameras off for me to do that. Okay.
If you guys need a healthcare advisor, just give me a call.
Love it.
Anybody have any more budgetary
No.
questions? Yeah, and going back to the feasibility study, how
Sure.
long will that traditionally last?
I think they said about 18 months.
Mhm.
Okay.
And do we know, sorry, just on, the budget needs to be voted and approved by how many of the towns? I don't remember.
So 4 out of our 5 towns need to approve the budget in order for it to pass.
Okay.
And what we like to do ahead of time, and that's why we had, like, Peter came in last year, Doc came in this year, we like to meet with our towns and just get insight before we ever bring the budget
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
So, we asked Doc and this group up as well, if you have concerns with the numbers that we've presented, please let us know this week so that we can, take a closer look. We've done,
And I know, we have more kids, so
Yeah.
obviously our allocation
we try to
is
put our
gonna be
best
higher.
foot forward to do what we can.
Yeah, it's just, the town is not
100%. We understand.
swimming in excess funds. I don't know how else to put it.
If
So
you had
it's
to
a
make,
tough
if you
year.
had to make any more cuts, what would it look like?
Be staff.
So if you had to make any more cuts, it's gonna be staff.
Yeah.
I got a super question, it's probably been asked before, and educate me on it, but we lost Freetown. Is there a possibility to bring in another town as an option to help?
So right now, that requires a unanimous vote, first of all, and then second of all, it would really, what it means is members would be giving up seats. So we have 330 applications from member towns in total.
Yeah.
That's just member towns for 150 slots, 140 to 150 slots. So if we brought in another town, it would mean that students who have an interest in Old Colony from our member towns as they currently stand
Yeah.
would not be accepted. It's a bit, it presents a bit of a conundrum, right?
Because
It makes it more difficult, but maybe
it would lessen the
benefit.
burden on, I think, with the big
Yeah, but that
towns.
just means more go to Fairhaven, or New Bedford High, or Voc, or
They're
ORR.
shifting widgets.
Right. just
But it's
shifting.
more expensive to go to Old Colony versus,
It is, because it's a vocational
Yeah.
school, but you want to take that opportunity away from,
oh, God, no, I
yeah.
was just,
That's the balance, right? Like,
no, I was just,
I think the issue is how many towns in the area,
Don't have an affiliation.
yeah, exactly. And
I
I
was
don't
thinking
think,
that as well.
Yeah, there aren't many.
They would have to have not be in a vocational school district.
oh, okay.
but at the end of the day,
Already.
you reach capacity just with the applicants from the member town, right? And the priority is supposed to be given to the member town, since we pay for the school, to
Oh,
allow
yeah.
our kids
It
to,
has to be by law.
to allow the kids and tickets to go. Yeah, it's more expensive, but it's for the kids.
I asked, educate me.
On your feasibility study, I know you're still looking at, do we rebuild, do we
Duly noted.
work with what we have and add on type of thing, correct?
Right, yeah, it's either an ad reno or new construction.
So, any idea, and I understand they're gonna come through with their recommendations and when all is said and done. But, what would you be looking at, rough guesstimate, in terms of increases of availability with an ad reno or a new construction? Do you have,
You mean
is there any
in
guess?
In terms of seats?
Yeah,
There is. We talked about the addition of, we were approved for anywhere from current numbers up to 810. We immediately said that 810 would be too much of a burden on our sending districts. It's just too much to ask. You can't go to 810. If we went to just under 700, we think that that's a much more reasonable number, and that would be the addition of a plumbing and an HVAC program.
so you'd be
And that
about
allows us to be fully
175 roughly,
What'd you say?
about another 175 students you'd be able to accommodate.
We're thinking closer to 96, 48 per program, 12 per program each year for 4 years, so it'd be 24 students per year, and that would total about 96 students. And then what it allows us to do is, if Acushnet says, we need such and such a structure built, instead of just coming over and building a shed, which we've done several times, we can do electrical, plumbing, HVAC. There's a reciprocal benefit when we're a fully operational construction program. Right now, we're working on a project in Mattapoisett, but Greater New Bedford Voc had to come in and do the plumbing because we don't have the program.
So you're showing fiscal year 24 enrollment of 542, you want to go to 700.
Well, that's a high number. What we're thinking is 2 programs is 96 students,
Okay.
right?
So you'd be looking more like 630,
and change.
640.
Yeah.
Are there other
Okay.
programs that,
There are. We talked about biotech and dental assisting because the labor market has a demand for it.
right,
But when you add that, you also have to add to the academic side.
right,
And so when you think about the number of teachers you'd be adding
Mm.
and the cost to the member towns, just from the standpoint of, is this palatable?
yeah. I'm just wondering why we settled on HVAC and plumbing.
Because they're the biggest labor market demand.
Okay.
and
No,
they
I
allow-
just wanted
And they
to,
allow for the greatest reciprocity
yep,
and a fully operational construction program.
okay. Makes sense.
You know, the last time you called for a plumber, and good luck trying to get somebody. Yeah.
Well, it's amazing what the graduates from BP are making.
My God, sure.
plumbers right out of high school.
Let me know when you get into cranes and equipment.
I have a student, when I was the principal at Bristol Aggie, there's a young man, Justin Pavo. I don't know if he works with you in Boston. He's a crane operator.
Oh, really?
He does very well,
Oh, they, yeah.
do.
very well.
Mr. Kelly, is there anything you wanted to add from the town perspective? No?
Other than, as far as the town goes, we're a major deficit, 1.7 million. And anything that can be cut in any program is helpful. I'm sure we'll have further discussions with all the various entities in the budget.
Aaron, your school committee's gonna be voting on your budget on March 20th, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, because that's what I'd written down at last week's meeting.
Yeah.
Interesting date.
Yeah, it's our date.
March what?
March 20th.
Oh,
That's when we're meeting with our schools. We have a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and our schools on that date. Anybody else have any questions? Kristen, anything? No?
Thank you.
Folks, thank you for coming in tonight. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. And appreciate the detail, as always, you guys
Yeah.
do.
Very, very clear and easy to follow. I know, I can say I know how much work goes into
Thank you.
preparing a budget,
Thank
and it's a never-ending process. It
This
really
is usually the packet that gets handed out to whoever comes into Old Colony, but this year, we sort of decided to give a little bit more for everybody, and because the accounting software is great, the transparency is there.
Yeah.
You know, you can see
Appreciate
everything
that.
where it is, and if you have any
No,
questions,
it's
please just let us know.
Very easy to follow, you know, probably even for someone that's not used to,
Yeah.
like, all these
That's not
numbers,
helpful.
right, all these account numbers.
It's a
so.
great, it's a great time system.
You know, I think our big, my closing is just, we're asking for parity to the best of everyone's ability. You know, when you take into consideration that without insurance, we're at 263. We're really trying hard to get to the right number.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the next stage for me is always a heavy feeling. The idea of having to say to somebody, you know, this is where we're at, and it's someone's livelihood. It's hard.
And I want to say too, without insurance, to get to 263, you know, with a
It's not even your
with a
COLA number.
3% COLA, and with people changing steps
Yeah.
and lanes, especially steps,
Yeah.
a 3% can equal a 6, 7, 8, 9%,
Right.
depending on your step distribution.
So you're seeing that
so
absorption
in-
of hiring,
in- exactly.
savings, of those retirements,
Exactly.
you're actually
And so
seeing that
really
in that
carefully
2.6.
looking at all
Yeah.
the line items,
You
because
are.
that 3% COLA is really, in reality, for salaries, which is probably the major,
Yes.
I'm not sure about vocational schools, you probably have a lot of costs that
We
non-voc
do have
schools
some more
do,
supply
non-supplies and
yeah, equipment.
equipment
repairs.
and, exactly,
Yes,
so, but
absolutely.
typically salaries are what, 70 to 80%
80%.
of your budget, so
Mhm.
that, you know, a 3% COLA is, so to come in, so I guess my point is to come in at less than 3%, you know, insurance aside, and you're right, you have to take that out because you know, non-vocational schools don't typically have that in their budget. It's
Right.
covered by the town, and it's not something that the school is paying out of their own budget, so.
Thanks.
So to do that, that is,
But-
you know, that's,
Yeah.
I will say 3% is untenable for any city and town in this Commonwealth right now with this economy. 2% is untenable.
I think it's difficult because I think the schools could argue that a 2% or a 3% is almost untenable for them, for us as school employees too. So it's
No, I
very
mean,
difficult.
it's
I
not-
think everyone's-
it's
let's
not-
your point,
extremely
everyone's in
difficult.
difficult
Right.
times.
It's
Sure.
not,
Exactly.
no, I'm not talking whether people need a 2 or 3% COLA. I'm saying that you do not have in the public sector the ability to increase budgets by more than 1.5% right now. That is the problem.
You mean, we can't afford to do it, but that doesn't mean,
There is no public sector revenue
yeah.
that will come in that will make that on the municipal side.
Aaron, let me ask you a question. If it did have to come to cuts on the employment side, how does that affect your enrollment opportunity? Is that going to reduce the amount of students that would be able to attend? And I'm not going to hold you to it, but what's your opinion on it?
I think it's just a different level of service provided to the student,
Okay.
right?
I just didn't know if
I
that,
think it's a
if that
different level of
affects what we're
service
looking at.
provided to the student, and it's also, you begin to look at, my bigger concern, to be quite honest, would be morale, right? Because when you see people go, then it changes a culture a little
yeah,
bit.
you've got the quality and everything else.
Yeah.
But if it did reduce the amount of students, then your cost per student is going to increase because you have fixed costs that are going to be covered by
Well, that's
less people.
You
So
make a good point, because we do have fixed costs, and Kristen alluded to this. There's only so much you can do before you have to start to touch the staff line. And that's a challenge, and then, you know, to Jamie's point, the times we're in are challenging times for everyone.
Are there any positions that are currently
Not filled.
not filled?
There's a machine and tool technology teacher that is not filled yet.
But that's necessary for the shop.
Correct.
do you have a definite number of student-teacher ratio in the shop classes? I'm wondering, like, for safety.
Yes.
Because I know in academic classrooms, it's probably based on your teacher's contract, but it's sort of, you strive to get to that, and you have some room there. But I'm wondering if in your shop classes, if there's a definite.
Yep, there's a cutoff.
I think it's kind of a, unfortunately, a perfect storm for,
It is.
we've had, you know, a horrible economy for the last 3 years. It still stinks
don't get me started.
nationally. Minimal Chapter 78 here in this state. You know, this year, like our town,
Really
Acushnet,
bad.
is getting a half of 1%, you know, equivalent to
The
$35,000.
funding formula needs to be refined.
It's just, it doesn't make sense. And then you have, and I'm sorry, but you know, a lot of these unions, in my opinion, are out of touch with reality, and they need to understand that it's not just all about them. There's a whole municipality here to take care of, and there's people that live all throughout the town on fixed incomes, and people are already overtaxed, you know, in this state. We all know that. We're all paying more for goods, services, insurance, you name it. It is increases everywhere, and it's just it is. I've never seen it this challenging. You know, I've been on this committee for a long time now, almost 20
More than
20 years.
15 years, because I've been on it for 15.
Almost 20 years, and
47 years.
this is probably yeah, this is as
It's the
dismal
worst.
as I've seen it. It's just.
It'll be interesting.
It's not good, but I just think, going forward, I just think, you know, a lot of these unions out there, they're gonna just, it doesn't, you know, I always refer back to the private sector because that's where I come from. And if a private sector business were to be run like a municipality and, you know, had to give out COLAs at whatever the percentage is, no matter what, even if you're not getting the revenue coming in or the state aid, a private business would either go out of business, file bankruptcy, or they're gonna have to lay off people. They're gonna have to make cuts to survive, you know, because when you're in private business, you're there to make a profit. And it's a whole different ballgame compared to being in the public sector.
We had that conversation today.
So those are my concerns. And I do not want to see our town, you know, resort to overrides. Like, I mean, I don't care if other towns are doing it, and if they want to do it every year, good for them. Maybe they can afford it. But we have, you know, a median household income in this town of about $88,000 a year. And people are already paying high taxes, and then to ask them for more, it's gonna be tough. So, I mean, we're trying to think outside the box on how to generate extra revenue for this town. It's not easy, but it's definitely challenging. And I know next year is probably gonna be just as challenging. That being said, I appreciate all the transparency you guys show, you know, all the detail. You know, I know you're doing the best you can.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for your
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys, for coming in. If we have
Good to
any
see
questions,
you.
if we have any questions, Aaron,
Yeah.
we'll reach out, okay?
Please do, yeah. We're accessible.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll talk about merch later.
No mugs.
Next, good night,
Thank
Aaron.
you.
3 days ago.
Pleasure having you, sir. I mean, compared to Acushnet, rural.
I tell you, 2.6% with 3% COLA, it's tough because really, where do you cut? It's not like that they've gone out of their way to build something, add something, change something.
I want to go back to the agenda here. I know I'm on the Jamie here for this. Does anybody have any old business to discuss? Under new business, there was a memorandum that Mr. Kelly sent out regarding our town meeting timeline. So as of March 15th, departments have to submit articles to the town administrator. March 25th, all articles are due to the town administrator's office. April 2nd, the Board of Selectmen will be hearing of the articles, which is tentative. April 23rd/24th, the warrant goes to town council. April 30th, the Board of Selectmen approved the final warrant. May 5th or 6th, the warrant is going to newspaper and print. May 20th, the warrant gets posted, and then June 3rd is our town meeting. We don't have any, oh yeah, we do have a meeting scheduled next week. Next week, I believe we're meeting with town clerk. Where is it? Kathy, do you have that?
I don't, I think it's the assessors and.
Assessors, town clerk, Board of Selectmen.
And that includes everything.
That includes everything, yeah. So we have, you know, essentially 3 departments coming in next week. And then March 20th, we're having our joint meeting, you know, with the schools and the Board of Selectmen at the middle school library.
And that's the last meeting?
That'll be the last meeting, and then we'll start deliberating, because we want to get our deliberations done. I mean, I'm not anticipating any articles, really. I mean, there should not be hardly any, no big ticket items.
We've got the two requests from the fire department, one because the alarm boxes.
Yeah.
The other one is a repeater.
Yep.
This might be an article concerning health insurance. There'll be the article, the yes article, and the senior work-off article,
And we need to figure out
and those will all be free cash.
we also need to figure out the Emerald's bus,
The what?
the
Bus contract.
bus contract from 2 years ago.
Yeah, so, yeah, we just don't want to know the funding source. Is that gonna, we're gonna take that out of reserve fund?
Or if there's free cash left.
So it's gonna be
Yeah.
it's gonna have to be either one of those. So I think we should have 2 weeks to do our deliberations. I don't think we're gonna get it done in 1 week. So I think 2 weeks. So we'll probably meet, so the 20th,
27th and the 3rd.
27th and the 3rd. Yeah,
Well, I
so
was
so
looking
we
at that.
finish up April 3rd. That's right after the Board of Selectmen are gonna get the article. So will we have the articles by then in front of us to vote on? Okay,
You'll have proposed articles,
okay.
if not final. I've
So, I mean,
almost
if
got
we need it- if
I've
we-
almost got the warrant done other than the
So
budget.
if we needed, in case anything comes up, we needed 1 extra week, we could probably go to April 10th. Because it's not going to warrant, the warrant's not going to council until April 23rd, right? So if for some reason we needed 1 extra meeting, I
And
think we have till April 10th.
the other issue, just for everybody to keep in the back of their mind, is if the legislature acts expeditiously, we might have House numbers in April.
When do those typically
Well-
come?
With the legislature, there's no typical
There's
time schedule. But if we have House numbers in April, or even House Ways and Means numbers, and they're radically different than the governor's numbers, you know that usually House and Senate are somewhat the same. So if they're, let's say, Chapter 70 is not 0.5%, but is 3%, then that would help us balance in the budget.
Mm.
Wanting to sell that kidney.
Anybody else have anything they want to add under new business? No? Okay. Next, we have some minutes to approve from February 7th, 2024. In attendance was myself, Sue Delgado, Pete Benoit, Eric Chu, Bob Ferrera, Kristen Flynn, and Eric McGlenn. Absent was Mr. St. Jean.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, minutes are approved. Next meeting date, right here, next week, March 13th.
I just want to remind the Finance Committee that this Friday, our town accountant it's his last day, and he is going off to,
Is that a surprise?
but he's going off to another
Yes.
community, so we will be operating without an accountant for a while, and we're really gonna miss him.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I think Nick has done an outstanding job since in this role that he's had, and it's definitely, sad to see him go. I thought we were gonna have him stick around for a while, but hey, look, you can't blame him for
Seems to be the problem in town.
taking more. Look, the problem is, we can only afford to pay people
Yeah.
so much. We don't have the
They have to
resources
wanna
that
be here.
yeah, exactly. We don't have the resources that other towns do. So if you get somebody locally homegrown and they don't want a big commute, they want to be able to get to work in 10 minutes,
Don't wanna go
You
to
know,
Boston
then-
every day.
then there's value in that for some people. I mean, I'm a person that would never want to commute back and forth to Boston. That wouldn't even be worth an extra $50,000 to me. It really wouldn't, because it's just gonna take away from my quality of life. My health, my blood pressure, I'd probably be on numerous blood pressure medications. So
It's lowered mine.
so that's not for me. So I think there's always people out there looking to work in their own home small town. I think we've seen it in some cases. So hopefully we'll get some applications coming in.
Has it been posted and advertised yet?
Oh yeah, but there is a very high number of communities that cannot fill any of the finance positions, to the point where the state has recognized it, and DOR is put together a whole training program, but they're not going to be out of the training program for years.
So who picks up the slack in his absence?
You know what, maybe,
It'll all fall on you?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, maybe instead of spending $1 billion on funding illegal immigration in this state, maybe the state should allocate some of those funds in different directions.
Yeah, it's
Or
just
leave it
that,
where it's supposed to go.
Yeah, so we get our fair share in Chapter 70, Chapter 90, etc. I mean, it's just, this stuff has gotten out of control, in my opinion. And it's-
well, you're looking at, in the municipalities, hiring a smaller and smaller group of people, because you don't have the younger people coming into the professions. That includes town administrator, town manager, town accountants, finance directors, treasurer collectors,
Everyone's
building
going
ins-
into finance, they want to be investment bankers and things like that. That's the sexy side of the
Wall
profession.
Street type of stuff.
Exactly.
But
That's
it's
the
also,
sexy
it's
side.
also building commissioners, building inspectors, sanitarians, conservation agents. They're just, no one's coming up to fill town planners. The numbers that were coming into the professions 30 years ago are not anywhere near there now.
We never had a town administrator for years. We just-
Again, think of the savings.
No, seriously, we didn't have a town administrator years ago.
You had an executive secretary.
I think so.
So
But that
the
was-
board- The Board of Selectmen had
that
a
was-
bigger
That
role.
was years
Yeah,
ago.
but that was for also the size of your town at that point.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's, there's a lot of positions that we didn't have years ago that we're filling now.
Well, it's a lot of things have grown, and everything's gotten a lot more complex. Things aren't as simplified as they used to be. I mean, just look at technology. That's like a whole department in and of itself,
Oh, yeah.
and it's costly. I mean, it's a lot to fund all these technology line items. It's significant.
Right,
No,
because
it's not.
everything runs on
Life was a lot simpler
technology.
back then.
Yeah.
Everything from the heating system to
Exactly, it's just,
everything runs
It's,
on.
Yeah, you're not even seeing, it's not just in municipalities. Find someone with the CDL.
Mhm.
Find someone with
Right,
a
and
hoisting
find school bus
license. Find
drivers.
someone with a young person, find.
Oh. Wow.
Find someone,
I had all those right to the young person.
find someone who's a plumber, find someone who's an electrician around here.
so my son's gonna be graduating as a plumber from Bedford Voc in a
So
few
tell-
months.
Give me his card.
Tough situation.
What do you need done anyway?
Aside from the fact that 130,000 people between the ages of 20 and 35 have moved out of Massachusetts in the last 5 years.
Well, there's no shocker there.
Could be
And
California.
you're probably gonna see more of an exodus if things continue the way they are in this state.
Don't think he didn't.
It's just, it's getting too costly.
Pipes are there, and he's just replacing a vanity. You don't need a plumber for that.
All right, so
Motion to
I
adjourn.
think Eric had made a motion to adjourn about 20 minutes ago.
Second.
All right, so second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.